Ever wonder what happens when someone decides that basic physics doesn't apply to them? Stay tuned to discover how a demolition worker spent days chipping away at the very pillar holding up the concrete slab above his head, while dozens of office workers watched in horror, knowing exactly how this epic battle between man and gravity would end. Hello everyone, welcome to Wow Amazing. In this video, we will go through our Volume 19 of Top 10 Most Stupid Darwin Award winners, but before we begin, we would like you guys to subscribe to Wow Amazing and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on amazing and entertaining content that will surely get you amazed. Now get ready because this volume is absolutely packed with tales that'll make you question humanity's survival as a species. Number 10, the Pillar of Destruction. Let's start our countdown with a story that had dozens of witnesses but zero heroes willing to speak up. It's October 9th, 2008 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Office workers are going about their daily routine when they notice something peculiar happening at a construction site across the street. A demolition worker named Ishmael, sitting comfortably in his mini excavator, has begun what can only be described as the world's slowest suicide mission. Day after day, these office workers watched as 52-year-old Ishmael methodically chipped away at a concrete pillar. Not just any pillar, mind you, but the very support beam holding up the massive concrete slab directly above his head. The walls were already gone, leaving only these crucial pillars between him and certain doom. What makes this story particularly tragic is that it wasn't a split-second decision or momentary lapse in judgment. This was a multi-day demonstration of ignoring the most basic principles of physics. Every swing of that excavator arm was another step toward inevitable catastrophe. The outcome was as predictable as sunrise. The besieged pillar finally surrendered to physics, and the concrete slab came crashing down, crushing both man and machine beneath tons of rubble. Ishmael was killed instantly, still sitting in his excavator cab, having completed what one observer called the most senseless demolition they'd ever witnessed. Number 9, Bridge Too Far. If our first story was about ignoring physics, our next tale proves that some people believe action movies are instructional videos rather than entertainment. Sometimes the line between confidence and catastrophe is thinner than you think. January 13th, 2008, in sunny Florida, was supposed to be just another day of motorcycle riding for our 37-year-old daredevil. Wearing nothing but swim trunks and sneakers, because apparently protective gear is for people who plan to survive, he gunned his Suzuki toward the Minnesota Key drawbridge. Now, most reasonable people would see a drawbridge beginning to open and think, well, I guess I'll wait a few minutes. But our Darwin Award winner saw an opening bridge and thought, challenge accepted. He was determined to shoot the gap like some kind of two-wheeled Evel Knievel. Bridge designers, being considerably smarter than our protagonist, had anticipated exactly this kind of lunacy. They'd installed crossing guards specifically to prevent motorcycles from launching themselves into the great beyond. These safety barriers weren't suggestions, they were literal lifesavers. But when you're committed to making spectacularly poor choices, safety equipment becomes merely an obstacle to overcome. As our swimmer-turned-rider accelerated toward the rising bridge, the closing gates did exactly what they were designed to do. In a scene that would have been hilarious if it weren't so fatal, the crossing guards swept him clean off his motorcycle like some giant mechanical hand swatting a fly. Over the side of the bridge he went, into the water below, and straight out of the gene pool forever. And the ironic twist, while our hero plunged into the water, his motorcycle flew over the ramp and actually made it. The bike nailed the stunt its rider couldn't, proving sometimes the machine has more sense than the human. Number 8, cart before the horse. They say the internet is full of bad ideas, but our next Darwin Award winner proves that sometimes people take online inspiration a little too literally. When social media meets teenage invincibility, the results can be deadly. March 8, 2008, in Florida, was the day 18-year-old Cameron decided to turn a viral video concept into his final performance. The plan seemed simple enough. Grab onto a moving SUV while riding in a shopping cart and enjoy the ride. What could possibly go wrong with this brilliant transportation method? An eyewitness summed up the situation perfectly. It's irresponsible behavior, but what do you expect from kids? Indeed, Cameron was living proof that having access to the internet doesn't automatically grant you access to common sense. This young man gleefully holding on to the back of an SUV while standing in a shopping cart racing through a parking lot like some kind of discount chariot racer. For a brief moment, he probably felt like the king of the world, master of his wheeled domain. But physics has a way of humbling even the most confident daredevils. When the SUV hit a speed bump, those things specifically designed to slow down vehicles, Cameron's makeshift chariot decided it had had enough of this nonsense. The shopping cart overturned with all the grace of a dying elephant, ejecting its occupant with considerable force. Cameron wasn't wearing the little safety belt that comes with shopping carts because apparently even he realized how ridiculous that would look. The impact with the pavement was swift and final. Cameron was pronounced dead at the scene, his brief career as a human shopping cart pilot coming to an abrupt and tragic end. Number 7. Rabbit season. From shopping cart stunts to snowmobile chases, our next story proves that adding alcohol to any dangerous activity is like adding gasoline to a campfire. It's guaranteed to make things more explosive. Imagine a perfect winter day in the wilderness. Snow everywhere, a group of friends partying and racing snowmobiles, and enough alcohol to make anyone think they're invincible. It was supposed to be just another fun day of winter recreation, until nature decided to join the party in the form of one wascally wabbit. After a day of drinking and snowmobile racing, the group was heading back to their cabin when suddenly up popped a jackrabbit. Now most people would admire the cute woodland creature and continue on their way. But when you mix alcohol, adrenaline, and horsepower, logical thinking tends to go out the window. The chase was on. Several snowmobilers joined the pursuit, weaving dangerously close to each other as they chased their furry target across the snow. Fortunately, most of them had enough sense left to back off when things got too dangerous. Most of them. One determined hunter kept his eyes locked on his prey, accelerating to what witnesses described as Mach 1 speed. The rabbit, displaying considerably more survival instinct than its pursuer, darted toward the road where there was less snow to slow it down. Our snowmobiler was committed to ramming his rabbit before it could escape across the road. But the clever bunny had other plans. At the last possible second, it darted into a culvert beneath the road, a concrete tube just wide enough for a small animal. Witnesses said the snowmobiler never even hit the brakes. There was a metallic crunch as the vehicle rammed into the culvert, followed by an explosion that scattered snowmobile parts across a 1,000-yard radius. This particular brand of snowmobile had its fuel tank mounted in front. The culvert admitted just the tip of the machine before cutting into the cowling, spilling gasoline over the red-hot engine. The resulting blast launched our rabbit hunter 20 feet back into the field. The rabbit's whereabouts remained unknown, though we suspect it lived to hop another day. Number 6. Performance enhancement gone wrong. Moving from outdoor adventures to indoor experiments, our next story proves that when it comes to enhancing human performance, some methods are definitely worse than others. Sometimes the cure is infinitely worse than the condition. In 1988, doctors at New York Hospital Cornell Medical Center encountered a case so bizarre they felt compelled to publish it as a warning to other medical professionals. They treated a 34-year-old man who had discovered what he thought was an innovative way to enhance his romantic encounters. Instead of relying on traditional methods, our creative patient had decided to inject cocaine directly into his urinary tract using an eyedropper. His theory was that this would provide enhanced sexual performance and give him what he called a sexual high. The plan seemed to work initially, perhaps too well. After his pharmaceutical enhancement session, the man found himself with an erection that lasted not hours, but days, 3 days to be exact, resulting in a painful condition called priapism that made basic biological functions impossible. On his 3rd day in the hospital, his persistent problem suddenly resolved itself. Doctors and patient alike probably breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the worst was over. They were tragically wrong. Over the next 12 hours, blood began leaking into tissues throughout his body, feet, hands, genitals, back, and chest. The cocaine had triggered massive blood coagulation, causing tissue death across large areas of his body. Doctors were forced to transfer him to the burn unit, where they fought desperately to save his life. To stop the spread of gangrene, they amputated both legs above the knee and all but one finger. His penis simply fell off by itself. The man survived this ordeal and was transferred to a rehabilitation facility where he presumably had plenty of time to reconsider his enhancement strategies. This case stands as perhaps the most expensive few minutes of pleasure in medical history. Number 5, mole patrol gone wrong. Sometimes the smallest problems lead to the biggest disasters, as our next Darwin Award winner discovered when he declared war on the wrong enemy. When dealing with garden pests, there are smart solutions, and there are solutions that turn you into the pest. January 10th, 2007, found a 63-year-old German man at his holiday property on the Baltic Sea, facing a problem that has plagued homeowners for centuries: moles. These tiny underground engineers had been wreaking havoc on his perfectly manicured lawn, and he'd had enough. Most people would call an exterminator, set some traps, or maybe just accept that moles are part of nature. But our determined homeowner had a more ambitious plan. He was going to electrify the entire underground realm and make it uninhabitable for any burrowing creature. His strategy involved pounding several metal rods deep into the ground across his property. Then came the part that separated him from ordinary homeowners. Instead of connecting these rods to standard household current, he decided to tap directly into a high-voltage power line. The plan was sound in a terrifying sort of way. High-voltage electricity running through underground metal rods would certainly make the subterranean world unpleasant for moles. Unfortunately, our mole warrior had overlooked one crucial detail in his master plan. Electricity doesn't stay politely underground just because that's where you want it. When you pump high-voltage current into the earth through metal conductors, you're essentially turning the ground itself into a giant electric fence, including the ground you're standing on. The man was found dead sometime later, having learned too late that he'd created the world's largest electric chair with himself as the primary target. Police had to trip the main circuit breaker before they could safely venture onto the property to recover his body. Number 4, the last dive. Our next story shows that experience doesn't always equal wisdom, especially when standard safety procedures are treated as optional suggestions rather than life-saving requirements. Meet Mitchell Sharky Ether, a head diver at a pearl farm in Broome, Australia, known for his fearless approach to underwater work. Sharky had a reputation as a loose gun in a company of cowboys, always willing to take risks to get the job done. His colleagues knew he was destined to make an original exit from this world. The warning signs had been there for a while. During one incident in Roebuck Bay, Sharky miscalculated the fuel needed for the air compressor that pumped air to divers below. Instead of following standard procedure, bringing everyone up and refueling during a surface interval, Sharky surfaced alone to top up the fuel tank while the compressor was still running. On the unsteady deck, he spilled petrol near the red-hot exhaust of the compressor that had been running for hours. The inevitable happened: ignition, followed by flames racing into the fuel tank. The explosion destroyed their $200,000 brand-new dive boat, complete with oxygen tanks that created a mushroom cloud visible 5 kilometers away in town. Incredibly, Sharky survived this incident and was actually promoted to skipper of a larger vessel. But old habits die hard, and Sharky kept finding excuses to don his dive gear instead of staying safely on deck where skippers belong. His final excuse came when a mooring rope tangled around the propeller. Instead of asking a properly equipped diver for help, Sharky threw on his gear, started the compressor, clipped on a dive hose, and jumped off the back of the boat. But in his haste to solve the problem, he made one fatal oversight: he forgot to take the boat out of gear. Once he freed the mooring rope, the spinning propeller grabbed his air hose and began reeling him in like a fish on a line. His lifeline became his death line, pulling him directly through the spinning blades. Sharky died on the way to the hospital, having finally made that original exit his colleagues had always expected. Number 3, barn burner. Sometimes teamwork makes the dream work, and sometimes teamwork makes the nightmare inevitable. Our next story proves that group projects can go spectacularly wrong when nobody thinks to question the plan. January 14th, 2007 in West Virginia brought together 3 friends with a common goal: demolishing a dilapidated barn. Raising a barn brings communities together, but apparently demolishing one can tear friendships apart in the most final way possible. The trio approached their winter afternoon project with enthusiasm and power tools, always a potentially dangerous combination. Everything was proceeding smoothly until one industrious fellow decided to fire up his chainsaw and really get things moving. With the confidence of a man who had clearly never taken a basic engineering course, our amateur demolition expert targeted what seemed like just another wooden beam. He revved up his chainsaw and ripped through the timber with satisfying efficiency. Unfortunately, What he had actually severed was a crucial support post, one of the few remaining structures holding up the entire weight of the barn roof. Those wooden beams weren't decorative. They were literally all that stood between the workers and several tons of falling lumber. Physics, as always, was paying attention even when humans weren't. The roof immediately succumbed to gravity's relentless pull, and our chainsaw operator suddenly found himself in the unique position of watching his own doom approach in slow motion. For a few brief moments, he had the opportunity to contemplate the approaching weight of his mistake, literally. The massive roof structure descended with all the mercy of an avalanche, delivering a final lesson in structural engineering that he would never have the chance to apply. The deceased was indeed successful at demolishing the barn, though perhaps not in the manner he had originally envisioned. Number 2, foam and fire. Sometimes workplace accidents happen because of faulty equipment, and sometimes they happen because someone decides to apply a blowtorch to pressurized containers. Our next story initially fooled everyone, including safety officials. March 10, 2007 in Scotland, James was working on a new house construction project when tragedy struck. Initial reports suggested a terrifying equipment malfunction that prompted immediate safety warnings across the construction industry. According to early accounts, James had picked up a canister of insulating foam and shaken it as recommended by the manufacturer. The reports claimed a pressure explosion occurred when the can spontaneously burst, with the bottom section hitting him in the chest and causing fatal injuries. This news sent shockwaves through the construction world. Safety alerts were immediately issued warning workers about the potential for expanding foam canisters to undergo lethal decompression. Construction sites across the country began treating these common tools as potential bombs. But sometimes the first story isn't the whole story. As investigators dug deeper into the incident, a very different picture emerged. Eyewitness accounts and manufacturers' statements revealed a crucial detail that had been omitted from the initial reports. James hadn't simply shaken the canister and experienced a freak accident. For reasons that will forever remain mysterious, the 26-year-old had decided to apply a blowtorch to the pressurized 500-milliliter container of expanding foam. The safety warning was quietly retracted once this detail came to light. After all, no amount of safety engineering can protect against someone who decides to heat a pressurized container with an open flame. The exploding foam canister that killed James wasn't a manufacturing defect or equipment failure. It was the entirely predictable result of introducing extreme heat to a pressurized vessel. Number 1, insurance fraud backfire. For our number 1 spot, we have a rare double Darwin Award that proves insurance fraud is definitely harder than it looks. Sometimes when you're trying to burn down your business, you end up burning down your life instead. Meet Musa and his son Essa, Jordanian immigrants who owned a place called Steak Time Sub Shop in Ohio. Business apparently wasn't going well because they hatched what they thought was a foolproof plan to collect insurance money by burning down their restaurant. They hired an arsonist and promised him a $60,000 annual job, though where exactly he would work after they burned down the shop was never quite explained. This professional fire starter turned out to be about as competent as the people who hired him. 3 times he attempted to destroy the sandwich shop, and 3 times he failed spectacularly. Whether it was Molotov cocktails thrown through windows or chairs doused with gasoline and set ablaze, the result was always the same: minor damage and major embarrassment. The neighborhood was up in arms about these apparent hate crimes against the immigrant business owners. Musa even gave a televised interview declaring, "If someone is trying to shut me out of business, it's not going to happen. This is my life, and nobody's going to take that away from me." Ironically prophetic words. After the 3rd attempt, Musa grew tired of throwing good money after bad and decided to take matters into his own hands. Just 12 hours after the latest failed chair burning incident, he and his son decided to help their incompetent hired hand. They spread gasoline around their eatery themselves, figuring a single match would finally do the trick. Unfortunately, they had considerably more talent for arson than their amateur arsonist. During a cigarette break to admire their handiwork, one flick of a lighter later, a gas explosion took out an entire wall. Both men were burned so severely that despite weeks of hospitalized care, they eventually died from their injuries. Bonus entry: David versus Goliath rematch. Our bonus story proves that sometimes legends are better left in ancient history, especially when modern weapons meet prehistoric fish. September 9, 2006, in the Florida Keys, 42-year-old Gary decided to go hunting for giant groupers, massive fish that can weigh 600 pounds and have been protected by law since 1990. Poaching these underwater giants remained surprisingly popular among spearfishers, who apparently enjoyed tethering themselves to creatures the size of small cars. Gary was described as a fit and experienced snorkeler, but he made one fatal oversight that separated him from smarter hunters. He embarked on his illegal grouper hunt without bringing a knife to cut himself free if things went wrong. Gary found his giant grouper and successfully speared the massive fish. But instead of the triumphant hunt he'd imagined, the tables quickly turned. The wounded grouper dove deep, dragging Gary down with it through 3 coils of line wrapped around his wrist. 17 feet underwater, pinned to the coral with a very dead grouper at the other end of his spear line, Gary learned too late that sometimes the fish catches you. His body was discovered by other divers, a testament to what happens when illegal hunting meets inadequate preparation. And there you have it, 10 tales of human creativity applied in all the wrong ways, plus one bonus reminder that Mother Nature always gets the last laugh. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe to Wow Amazing, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest episodes of Evolution in Action. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that common sense isn't actually that common, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing in any situation is overconfidence combined with poor planning. Until next time, stay smart, stay safe, and remember, Darwin is always watching. This is Wow Amazing, signing off with another reminder that natural selection never takes a day off.